What is up everyone, Dimitri2 here, and welcome to episode 2 of the Ironman challenge. Now before we dive into the weekly recap, let's talk account goals and stage 1 of my Ironman challenge. A lot of people have been asking me, what is the goal for stage 1? What is the goal for your Ironman in general? And stage 1, as I like to call it, my main goal for the account is going to be get my hands on a resource farming frame, simple as that. Since one of my main goals is to get all the weapons and all the warframes completed on this account, I'm going to need a lot of resources, and the earlier I start, the better. However, to get that done, I have two options. Either Necros using a Desecrate build, or Hydroid using a Pilfering Swarm build. Let's go over each choice. Necros, using his Desecrate skill, consumes 1 corpse per second in the radius around him, granting a percentage chance to get extra loot from the corpse. Pilfering Swarm is an augment mod for Hydroid that makes enemies that get killed by Hydroid's Tentacle Swarm ability drop 1 extra set of loot. Normally Necros is seen as the superior choice for looting purposes, and I am inclined to agree. For teamplay, Necros simply outperforms Hydroid at all times. Necros' Desecrate works on every piece of a corpse, regardless if you kill them or not. This means that your teammates can slice up a corpse into multiple pieces, think something like a Flux Rifle or an Atarax, and you still get to roll for loot. However, since this is an Ironman account, I'm going to be taking Hydroid. I'm going to have to kill everything by myself anyway, and Pilf Droid has a guaranteed extra drop versus Necros' 54% chance. Honestly though, arguments can be made for both frames and it's down to personal preference in my opinion. If you're playing in a team, go with Necros. If you're solo playing, I think the two compare pretty close to each other. I simply prefer Hydroid's Tentacle Swarm ability more than the passive Desecrate from Necros. However, now that we've chosen our frame of choice, we're going to have to start up our first major grind on the account. Acquiring Pilfering Swarm Hydroid is going to take a lot of time and has multiple requirements on it. Hydroid itself is relatively easy to acquire. It requires you to kill Vehek a few times on Earth and you need to be Master Rank 5 for that, but more on that later. The build I'm going to use for Hydroid, however, is going to be one of the main complications. Pilfering Swarm Hydroid requires multiple corrupted mods and the augment mod itself. The corrupted mods are acquired from the Orokin Vaults in the Derelict, and to get into the Derelict and into the Orokin Vaults we need Dragon Keys, which are obtained from the dojo. And the dojo requires Forma to build, which is going to be limited to 1 Forma a day, and you can see how this becomes a problem. It's not so much that it's going to take effort, it's going to take time. Also, vault farming itself is going to be a problem, but more on that in a future episode. The Pilfering Swarm Hydroid augment is relatively simple as well, but once again just takes a lot of time. The augment mod is acquired either from New Loka or Cephalon Suda at rank 5 for 25k syndicate points. This means that I have to join one of the syndicates and get them to max rank, requiring quite a few different things and a lot of farming per day and a lot of credits. As you can see, to get the first part of the account done, the first stage, we have quite a lot of stuff to do. Starting off, I decided to focus on the basics first, get the groundwork and the infrastructure for the account up and running basically. Let's talk about the syndicates. Now, first of all, we have 6 syndicates to choose from, but because of the fact that we're going to be rushing for Pilfering Swarm Hydroid as our first mod, we only have to choose from 2, Cephalon Suda or New Loka. Steel Meridian and Red Veil are not going to be a problem, since there's a handy trick that you can use to max out 4 of your syndicates at the same time. You can check that video out in the description below if you don't know how to do that. Which just leaves me with the question, do we choose the left or the right side of the syndicates? Do I go for Arbiters of Hexes plus Cephalon Suda? Or do I go with New Loka plus Baron Sequence? As I mentioned earlier, Pilfering Swarm is available from both Cephalon Suda and New Loka, so that's not going to factor into the decision. However, there are quite a few arguments to be made for both sides. If you're going to be making your own Ironman, I would highly recommend you spend some time looking into these syndicates and seeing what they have to offer for your account. For me, the deciding factor was the Sakura Electa, a weapon from Parent Sequence which boosts your credits from kills, so I chose New Loka plus Parent Sequence for my syndicates first. Sadly for me, the weapon was nerfed a few days after my decision, but oh well, you know, it's still going to be useful in the future anyway. So I made my decision and joined up with New Loka first, to get the Pilfering Swarm augment as soon as possible. The other thing that we had to set up before we could truly start farming that day was our dojo. We're going to be limited to building 1 room a day, every day, because of the fact that we can only build 1 Forma every day. I will show you guys my dojo layout in a future video, so don't worry about that, but for now we're just basically starting up the build itself. With the infrastructure of our account up and running, and our first major goal in sight, it was time to get farming. The first thing that we had to do was acquire Hydroid itself. This meant that I had to get to Master Rank 5 as well as farm Hydroid from Vehek. Thankfully, I'd already been building a lot of weapons the previous day, so when we finally started playing that day, we had a lot of stuff to level. My choice of leveling at the time was Dione, a spy mission on Saturn. The reason for this is that spy missions give a good chunk of experience if you can do them undetected, and I find the Grineer Vaults the easiest to run, so Dione on Saturn was the highest that I could get to, and that was the highest Grineer spy that I could do. To get there, however, we had to quickly make our way through Europa, and headed over to Dione to start our runs. It took me a few hours of leveling, but thankfully the runs only took me about 4 to 5 minutes each, so the experience came at a slow but steady rate. I was also getting a nice amount of meso keys from them as well, which I could later use for forma farming. Now when it comes to leveling stuff, I do think that solo leveling everything, spies are going to be the quickest. I'm going to be testing out more methods as I get access to them in the future, so I'll keep you guys up to date on my findings in the future videos that I'll be releasing. After the spy leveling was done and we had hit Master Rank 5, it was time to visit Vehek and get our hands on Hydroid. I was afraid that my Frost wasn't going to be enough to take him down, however, so I first farmed Rhino for a bit and started up his build, just in case. Along the way we also acquired Ruinous Extension from Jackal, a very handy mod to use in the Atomos. After farming Rhino and starting up his build, we went on a run for Vehek, and to my surprise it was actually a pretty easy boss fight. I was expecting a lot worse. At the time of this video, it's possible to bypass his first stages and simply find your way into his arena, skipping the early fighting. A very useful trick. Afterwards, the fight itself didn't take me all that long, and he wasn't doing damage to me either, which came to a surprise. It took me a whopping 4 runs as well to get all of Hydroid's parts, a very quick run compared to Frost or something that we farmed earlier, so we were out of there pretty damn quick, the dread really coming in handy. With our leveling done for now and Hydroid acquired, I did my daily Syndicate mission farming and my Forma Blueprint farming, and that was it for that day really. The next day, however, we started off with a nice boost, a 3-hour credit booster. Since I cannot buy boosters using Platinum, the only way for me to get boosters are from rare crates, login rewards and Barocketeer. With such a valuable drop early on, I delayed my plans for that day and farmed credits for 3 hours straight. My way of credit farming on the account is relatively simple yet very effective. Dark sector excavations on the highest planet that I can get to, in this case Europa. The reason this works is that the mission credits from the dark sector missions are very nice, the Europa one granting 19.2k normally and double that with a booster of course. That means that we want to complete dark sector missions as fast as possible, and excavations are the fastest way to do that. You start the mission, complete a single excavator and extract again, doing this over and over again. I managed to farm about 2 million credits this way in the time span of the 3-hour booster, a very handy addition to the account, especially since syndicates will cost me a ton of credits later down the line. After the 3-hour farming session was done, I continued on with my plan for that day, the second dream quest done. I'm not going to talk storyline spoilers about the second dream, but what the quest does give is access to the focus system after its completion, a very useful addition to get started up and running early on. Since I won't be able to get Arcane Energize on my account because I cannot do raids, and since energy pads will cost me a lot of resources to build, my best way of getting reliable energy regeneration is going to be Zenuric's passive. After the credit farm, we quickly made our way through Saturn, completing Uranus Junction as we went. The requirements for the Uranus Junction were fairly easy to be honest and didn't really take all that much time to complete. Afterwards, we headed into Uranus and started working on the Neptune Junction, the thing that would give us the second dream quest. To do this, we had to complete the Nata quest, and I thankfully got the scans for that on my third mission on Uranus. Killing Tilragor was easily done, the 5 melee weapon missions I did on capture missions, and the 3 caches were an interesting challenge. I would recommend looking up a guide or something if you're stuck on this part, but thankfully it only took me 10 minutes or so to complete the sabotage with all 3 caches completed. Afterwards, the Neptune Junction quickly fell and we started and completed the second dream. I decided to go with Zenuric for my previously mentioned reasons. The energy regeneration on this account is simply going to be a lifesaver. After that quest was done, we were running out of time, so I did my daily syndicate mission, my daily forma farming, and that was it for that day. The next episode is where the planning comes to a halt and where the grind truly starts to happen, so I hope to see you then. But this is going to be it for episode 2 of the Ironman challenge. If you guys have any questions about the Ironman, let me know in the comment section below or visit my stream whenever I'm streaming. I'm currently trying to push for Twitch partnership, so any and all support is highly appreciated. You can find the link to my Twitch page down below in the description. And as always, thank you very much for watching guys, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 2, and a special shout out to all of my GameWiz subscribers. I hope to see you guys in the next video, and until then, peace.